I am NB Mecha Pilot, aka RPGHour. My pronouns are they, them. I am joined by at Ink and Stories. I'll let them do a full intro. I do apologize for everything being wonky. I have had very wild week this week as it was Mrs. First week at her new job, and so therefore it offset everything that I do. This is, of course, Indie RPG Hour, where we get folks together to talk about indie RPG stuff. Today there is only one guest. I'm going to let them introduce themselves while I pull something up in the background.
Cool. Well, thank you for having me here. Excited to just chat all sorts of fun indie stuff. I'm Logan, he, him pronouns. I'm at Ink and Stories, Ink underscore and underscore stories on Twitter, where I spend a lot of time talking about tabletops mainly. Also on Itch, got a number of games on there. Breathing Stories, all one word, .itch.io. And excited to talk about all sorts of good stuff today.
So we have three topics that we're going to try and tackle before Google says you get no more time, because Google is rude like that now. And where did my touch? So I guess let's actually start with the one that I'm sort of doing my first one of. Games with no GM, so no game runner at the helm. Um, I will let you start out with that.
Yeah, so I tend to play mostly GMless games these days with my gaming crew and family and things, which is really great. Because one of to me, the magic of one of the magics of tabletop games is how the players all come together to create a story that one person by themselves could never imagine, right? So no matter in a game with a GM, no matter how much they plan, they kind of create the skeleton of the game, and then the players kind of put all the bits and pieces together. And often it looks quite different to perhaps for using a human skeleton analogy. I don't know how I landed here, but it might look like a very different human shape than the GM originally thought of, right? And that's awesome. That's like, whoa, I never knew we'd get here. This is so surprising, and like, oh, we really bounced off each other really well. And I think GMless games, they kind of really lean into that. So uh, GMless games are often sometimes called GM full games because the responsibilities of the GM kind of shared out to all the players. So rather than even having this skeleton to begin with, everyone's adding different bones. So you've got like maybe a human rib cage, but like wings and also dinosaur legs. And it's just sort of a next level of emergent collaborative collective storytelling. And yeah, I think that just really takes that collaboration to the next level. And it also means that no one has to like prep in advance. No one kind of has to know everything that's going to go on, everything that's going to happen. Um, yeah, you can just kind of all show up and create together, which is like easy and also super fun.
So I am a fan of them. However, one of the things that I've run into in the past is if a game built in this style doesn't have sort of a very forward setting or a guide list, so to speak, something that is like, hey, build the world this way, something there to kind of help guide people to build something. I find a lot of times like you spend more time trying to define how who everybody is in the world and how everything kind of goes. And I know that's going to be different for every group. But I find sometimes, when I play these kind of games, I read them first, and depending on what they are, how they are, is going to depend on the people that I'm going to play them with. If it's not people that I know that are decent at improv, and they don't have to be great, they just have to kind of know some of the improv cues, and I know I am not always the best at improv cues. That's why I say people that are okay at it. Because if you don't at least have some of those basics of improv, of kind of knowing like to shut down and give somebody else a chance and things like that, which I sometimes will repeat myself over and over again. If I'm like looking at somebody, I'm like, I don't think they're gonna talk. I don't think they're gonna talk. Like, I know that I will miss that, but if I get into a good improv groove, or if I feel like there's good people that I'm hanging out with at the table, I think those can be a lot of fun. That's why a game that I am writing that has, it's optional. You can either have somebody run the game, or it's actually built to be GMless. And the idea is that like everybody pseudo takes a turn game running as you build the stories on. What it sort of is the closest thing to a game runner in the game that I've written is one person defines the mood, so to speak, of the game that you're going to play. It's actually about you're all a part of a TV crew that films a reality show for ghost hunting. And so one person every story takes the producer role, and so however you want to do it is going to be either heavy. It's either a heavier role, more classic style, or it's a much lighter role, more like the GMless games. And I think games that kind of where they've got something in there that kind of builds, where like you build. There's 4 sheets going into it. There's a sheet for building your team, of course, your character sheet, a production sheet called a call sheet where you define out like each of the different kinds of moments that you can have within, like, hey, this room is super haunted. Hey, somebody said they saw a ghost walking over here. And so you kind of build up, like how you're going to do it. I think that games that kind of give you a structure beforehand going in help guide it. Because what I've seen sometimes at these games is 40 minutes is spent on people like drinking in the tavern, and that can be fun sometimes, but like um
Yeah,
uh
having direction totally helps people. Like, okay, we're here. We're just gonna stay
yeah.
here, I guess. Yeah, like one system that I really like that's GMless is the Firebrands framework by Megway and Vincent Baker. It's yeah, it kind of introduces the idea of mini games. So each person takes a turn choosing a mini game, which is like zooming in on a particular scene throughout the story. Right? It has a very strong premise. The original game is oh gosh, I'm forgetting it now. Mobile Frame Zero Firebrands. That's what it's called,
Yeah.
and the Firebrands framework. So, yeah, so your mecha pilots and the premise and setting is very solid, and there's a bit of character creation at the beginning, and then yeah, you're just kind of zooming in on particular scenes, and each person takes a turn choosing a scene, and like there's rules within each scene of how that flows, and so that's a very strong structure. Like we play a scene, okay, and it has a very defined end point, and then you go into the next one, and that has a defined beginning and aim, and then you go into the next one, and it really drives the action. Make sure that it stays high paced because each scene has a particular focus, and there's a defined turn order of like, okay, I'm going, and then you go, and then they go, and and it just I think it works really well. So I'm a huge fan of the Firebrands framework. And yeah, one game that I've designed, preparing for Paris, which I believe you're familiar with. Yeah, is yeah uses the Firebrands framework for a good portion of it. I just think it lends itself really well to a strong structure that really, yeah, I think helps to avoid that kind of what do we do next kind of vibe that can totally happen in GMless games for sure.
Yes, and I will say this: I've never played Firebrands. I have a copy. I keep meaning to read it. It's one of those things that's like, it's there, and every time people are like, I want to play that game. I'm like, cool, let's get together and do something. Like, it doesn't even have to be a stream or a podcast. Like, let's get together and play, and then everybody disappears. So I never get to play it. But I have dropped the link down in chat, folks. Preparing for Paris is a lot of fun. I saw it in its early stages. Which ironically, the game design contest that we were doing, gosh, this is over a year ago now.
Oh, it's gonna be
Um,
a couple years ago now, I reckon. Was it
it
2019?
2019, I think so. Uh,
I
I
think it was.
I still haven't finished the game that my partner and I started designing during that, but I did drop. Thank you so much. You're a wonderful, amazing human being. Thanks. I love you too. Uh, the horrible gestures that I received off camera. I'm traumatized. She's not back to her phone yet. But I still haven't finished my version, though that game does not have a GMless part. But no, preparing for Paris was actually a lot of fun. There was I keep hoping to do a podcast or something with some folks with it because it's a lot of fun. If you haven't checked it out, the link is in the chat below. Where is it?
Yeah, it's a part Firebrands, part Powered by the Apocalypse. That's the resolution system that 2d6 plus your stat. And yeah, the basic premise is that you are all teenagers going through an American high school called Olympic Academy, but all of the students are personified sports, and you were hoping to graduate top of the class in order to become a real Olympic sport. So it's a very like chaotic drama, teen drama, but designed to facilitate a lot of sort of soft heart-to-heart, deep friendship relationship moments as well. Um, so yeah, it's a very bonkers concept, which was a product of the competition that we were in, because we all have very specific criteria that we had to hit, which just came into this wacky concept, it was great fun.
I definitely think I've been meaning to like hit you up about this. You need a prom add-on for it. You need a
I did add
full.
that. I
Did
did
you?
add that.
Okay. I guess.
Yeah, that was in the one of the later versions. Yeah, like after a
Okay.
couple playtests, people kept telling me, "Yeah, you need a prom." So I listened, and yes, I have delivered. So that is there now in the latest edition. There is a prom, and yeah, so I took preparing for Paris to Kickstarter, and was yeah, that went quite well, much better than I was expecting, which is very lovely of folks who supported me, which enabled me to hire 3 guest designers to also write their own mini games. So, yeah, there's content I hadn't even dreamed up that is in there. Um, yes, and RPG Hour does get I don't know if you've read all the way through to the end notes, but RPG Hour does get a thank you for your feedback during the contest.
Yes, I was so excited about that. I guess I haven't looked at an updated version if there's already a prom thing. I'm so sorry, but I need to. Um, I definitely need to check it out because that was the one thing that I was going through when we were talking about the game and discussing it over here. I was like, there needs to be a prom mode, and now that my partner and I have played Monster Prom, I'm like, I want to preparing for Paris prom mode, like though I definitely want to. Sorry, my chair is slipping. For those, there is a clip of me making a funny noise when my chair does slip out from under me. You can find it here on Twitch somewhere. Um,
Oh no.
um, no, it's a very fun game, y'all. And it's also something that I was going to mention. Uh, I think that another thing that GMless games need and I think RPGs as a whole need more of this. I think mini games are something that need to be added, either a slight variant of the rules that are already in there, or a whole new set of rules, so to speak, to do something. I think that mini games need to be a bigger part of TTRPGs currently, um, especially GMless ones. But I think that one of the things that we forget is that we get so caught up in telling a story a specific way that sometimes these little mini games can be a lot of fun. Um, some podcasts have actually written some for games that they are running. There's been some really cool mini games that have come out, and I think it seems like it's a newer movement, but it seems like something that should have been here a lot earlier. I don't know. That's just me. But
Yeah. What
I
what do you like about mini games? Is it like the flow of play, like phases of play, or just the
I think
sort of the tight compactness?
I think that mini games offer the characters and the players a slight change of pace, and that it can basically take the game out of what it was and still keep you in game but doing something else.
Mm.
I have a fast paced rule set in a game that's going to be published in the next month. Um, if I can get play testers, if I can't, then I will end up publishing it anyway. It's a part of a game jam. But there's a race mini game, and you're trying to be the first one to get to something. And depending on what you roll and what you do is going to depend on once you get to the end what encounters that you have. Did you just activate that construct and now it's chasing after you? Did you accidentally, burst part of an aqueduct and now the streets are flooding? So there's some things I think that when you add these little mini games and when you add things that can change the story around the players and basically modify the way things are going, or just something fun that just helps do a mood change. I think that those are really cool things. I think that we need more things that kind of do that. The system that we were writing during that competition, actually, we have it's also influenced by Powered by the Apocalypse, but we have something called style moves or styles. And when you activate a style, you actually change the mood of what's going on. So you could be in the middle of a gambling match inside of a tavern and you activate a certain style, and now it becomes a chase scene. Now it becomes a brawl. Now it becomes a gunfight. And you've changed the entirety of the scene with one style move. And I think things that can like change up the mood, and it's not just, hey, I rolled, I'm shooting somebody. It activates something, which means that like you activate something for yourself, your team members get to do something, and then all hell breaks loose, so to speak. And I think when games add stuff to modify, I think that definitely, and I think I see it a little bit more in GMless games, and I think that that's kind of a thing. When I pick up a GMless game and there's not really something like that, I always kind of wonder how long it'll take for things to stagnate, so to speak. Um, and I think that that's a good thing. For one of the reasons I like them is because they help make sure that certain kinds of stories and certain kinds of things don't stagnate or just end up in
Yeah,
a
it's all about
cycle.
pacing.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Pacing seems to keep going back to pacing, because if you don't have a GM who's kind of the number one person in control of that, and the responsibility is shared amongst everyone. Uh, yeah, sometimes depending on your experience with role playing games and your comfort with communicating, putting what you're thinking out there can be difficult to pace all together at the same time. So yeah, totally, mini games help drive that, um, and they're also really great to just kind of really nicely zoom in on a scene, like you're talking about a chase scene, for example, and the one you were sort of describing. You have the chase, you roll, and it automatically generates consequences after that. So you don't have to like describe, okay, you're running down this street. Do you turn left or right? Okay, now you're going down this street, which can be very dry, right? So if you have a specific mini game for these sorts of things, it just really nicely, often really nicely and succinctly, keeping the high drama, right, tells the story that you want to, and gives you where to go next, um, without having to describe every detail, which is often sort of the GM's role in a game with a GM like that. So I also think mini games are great. Um, yeah, just really intensive pacing.
yeah, I would like to see more, like I said, but I think definitely part of it is some games assume that you are going to self pace, and I mean, let's be honest, sometimes we get hung up in the story. um,
Not that there's anything inherently wrong with that. It
no,
depends on the players at the table, what everyone's into. Yeah, I was thinking of like Wonder Home, for example. I play that. I think I've only played that GMless so far, and that does not have mini games or anything like. Well, I mean, no official mini games. I'm pretty sure there's some that third party content that has mini games. That feels like a thing that's happened. But yeah, Wonder Home, the pacing is really up to you. You kind of create a town at the beginning, and then you just go explore it. And yeah, it does quite a bit depend on the folks at the table and how they can gel and pace themselves. And in my opinion, based on my experiences of Wonder Home, I don't know how many games would go. They'd have to be a very sort of specific flavor to fit the theme of Wonder Home. You know, fishing mini game maybe, or like a carnival mini game. That could be some cool third party content. Have mini games for each of the natures. I'm having ideas. Anyway,
um, I think something that would be good that could be brought back, and this is kind of sliding into our discussion of indie designers. I think that something that could potentially be something that we should see more from the indie scene is a page of the book of some older games. When you had modules come out or certain kinds of splat books, they offered like new rules or things like that. I think something that the indie scene could do now, is do put out some modules. There's a lot of really cool games out there that, like, once they come out, that's it. You don't ever see anything more for them. You don't ever really, there might be some updates or something, but you never really see anything. I think really, and something that I'm in a Discord for indie creators, and one of the things that we do is we all post up about our creations and stuff like that, and we all go out and retweet each other's stuff. It's we keep that pace going. We try to keep we try to help each other because you never know what's going to happen. That one retweet that one time helps you get five more eyes that never have seen it before. Um, and I've been talking to some folks in there, and I'm planning on doing a game jam where people create some content for my game, and then somebody else is going to put up one of their games, and we're all going to go and create content for somebody else's games. And I kind of, I've already looked at one of the games that somebody's talking about putting up for this type of game jam that we're looking at doing, and I'm 100% going mini game. I think that's something that the indie scene kind of needs to take a step back, look at how some of the older stuff is. For those of us that have been around for a while, like, we can remember it. For stuff that for folks that haven't been around, they haven't played some of the older games, seen some of the older Splat stuff. Like, there was some cool like extra rules that came into play that were like only valid for this one thing, that were also almost a mini game. It was like almost like a mini subsystem that got added. Um, and I think that, like, when we create for one another, or when we create for ourselves a kind of splat book or a module or something, that we ought to consider adding a mini game, adding something else. And I don't just mean like, hey, look at this fresh new thing, come and check out. Like, what have you been doing at your table with that game? Like, what have other people said that they've kind of done? Think about some things and be like, hey, we really loved this game, but when we tried to do XYZ, the pacing felt off or something. Make a mini game for it. Maybe they made a mini game for it. Feature it. Um,
yeah, totally. Um, I know Aaron Lim. Um, he's written a number of amazing games. One of them is an altogether different river. And yeah, that's something he's looking at doing, potentially having releasing extra content and getting people to write, extra towns, extra variant rules and things, which is super super cool. Um, so yeah, that's one example that I'm aware of, um, and I know other folks have the ability to hire writers to write adventure modules for their games and things. So I mean, game jams is also a really great way of doing that. There was the Lumen Jam, where it was slightly different. Everyone like hacked Lumen, made their own games in that system, so it's not exactly expanded content, but every time someone hacks something, they inject a bit of their own flavor, right? So there are plenty of Lumen games that have variant rules to the original or new twists and things. So yeah, game jams is also a really great way to do that. I remember a while ago now, probably 2-3 years ago. Time, wow. There was the Jammy Jam Jam, which is where everyone was invited to hack or make games inspired by Jammy or Sword Queen Games, some of his games. That was also super cool. So yeah, game jams totally on itch or via Discord or what have you are really great ways to um, yeah, hype each other's content up, really, which is always amazing, and just come up with lots of different places for inspiration.
Well, and I think
100%.
if we did a little bit more of this in the indie scene, if we all came together a little bit more and said, "Hey, I like your game. I'm gonna put something out for your game," and talk to each other about it. And I don't just mean like, "Hey, I put this thing out for your game," but be like, "Hey, this is what I'm planning on doing." Get input from each other, build up something, hype one another up. Because if like we all dropped stuff for each other and built on games, we're not only building somebody else's game up, somebody that might not have seen our stuff before now gets finds us because they were a fan of this person. They now find their way
Mm-hmm.
over to our stuff, and we can help each other out by building for one another. I mean, and it doesn't even take much. Like honestly, some people's games are like 5 pages long, and you're gonna add something to it. One page and you're done. Um, oh, and I do apologize. I think I found Aaron Lim, and you said it was an altogether different river, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I am dropping those
and
links in chat, folks. So
thank
here
you.
is
Yeah,
his
Aaron's
Twitter.
great. Follow him. Look at his stuff. Also,
And
Bullet Jam, I think, happened. And a lot of that was around expanded content for Bullet, which was super cool as well. So yeah, I think you're right. There is an increase of game jams in this vein of, um, yeah, hyping up each other's games and making expanded content for it, which is really exciting. And it's got to be great for the original creator. There was the Carter Jam as well. How could I forget that one? Where yeah, the Cat McDonald of Peach Garden Games released an SRD for their game. Um, they have a couple games that use the Carter system. They wrote an SRD and then invited everyone to use it to make their own games. Um, which, yeah, again, people went with in their own directions. So I think you're right. There is a I'm seeing this more and more, especially with SRDs, which is really exciting. People writing and releasing SRDs, which are great resources to help people make content that's similar to yours. Yeah, the Wretched Jam, of course, there's a Wretched SRD out. Um, sorry, RPG, I'm just like shooting all of these things at you. Um,
I got some of
all
them.
of these tips that you currently have to find. um, I can also find links as well and put them in the notes. But yes, I am seeing an increase in this. Yeah, this real celebration of indie content where people are jamming on it and just seeing a thing that they love and just being part of that, which is really really cool.
Well, and I think something else that's really neat about jams that some people don't either they don't get or they just don't notice. Um, Once a game jam quote unquote ends, like you can't submit to it anymore, you could still go and view the jam and view all the submissions that are there. I've got like
Mm-hmm.
40 game jams that I've saved, and I'm slowly buying content from all of them because people do some really neat things. Um, but I mean, it's like this one it ranges the Carta jam. It looks like there's 3 free things that I see on here, 4 free things.
Yeah, a number of people put their stuff out there for free.
Which I'm gonna say this. Stop. Indie folks, unless it's an SRD that you intentionally want free, or it's an errata, or it's a character sheet, or it is something like that, stop putting your shit out for free. Stop
Please.
underselling yourself, please.
Yeah.
Like, even if you
Yeah,
put it.
and it could be tough for some people. Like it can be a confidence thing as well. But like know that everyone in the indie community is like rooting for you. Like, yes, sell your work. You got this. We believe in you. So, and like one thing that could help potentially in that confidence of wanting it to have it available for free is like have a price on it, but have community copies as well, right? So, you can kind of do both. But yes, value your worth. You're worth it. I promise.
I know I've got so many. I've got so many community copies on my stuff. I sometimes get like, I'm like, well, great, people got community copies, and then I go talk to another indie creator, and they're like, yeah, but that means somebody's got your game and they're playing it, and I was like, fine, yeah, jeez, why you gotta be right? Because like I don't even think about that sometimes. Though I put out, what's funny is I thought nobody was really paying attention to one of my games, and I did an update for it, and all of a sudden, like its downloads like jumped, and I was like, whoa, 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 wait a minute, hold on, I thought nobody was paying attention to this game here. Where did all
Where did
these
you come from?
downloads coming from? Like, because nobody rates it. That's one thing. Also, if you get a game, rate it, say something, please,
It's so
please,
nice.
or at least comment. Please, I don't. If you don't rate, at least leave a comment. I've got I don't know how many downloads for one of my games, and I've got 0 talking about it. I found nothing on Twitter. I found nothing on Facebook. I found there's no comments on the page. Like, please, even if you're like, this is a heaping piece of trash. Okay, why do you think it's a heaping piece of trash? Please, let's talk about this. Like, and I know some people that are like, oh, I don't want negative comments on my stuff. I'm like, cool. I will support you in that. I want negative comments. I want people to tell me. I would rather have a bunch of negative comments than no comments at all. Like, I'm gonna say that. Like, because I'd rather somebody be like, I think it's a piece of trash. Okay, why do you think it's a piece of trash? Well, I hate this mechanic. Okay, well, why don't you like that mechanic? And just like boil them down. Like, give me what I want and need from you so that I can do something. Maybe I can put out an errata. Maybe I can change it. Maybe it's something that I put there for a reason. Um,
Yeah, you're just wanting feedback so you know what people think.
yeah, and especially with games that like I have one game out that I wrote in 20 or 2000 like 2004. It was like a yellowed sheet of paper, lined paper that I wrote 2 lines within one set. It was college ruled, and I wrote 2 lines of text in one line. Um, I used to write really tiny. I don't know with my
Yeah,
bad handwriting. I don't know how I read it, but I printed that. I printed that game, and then recently I found another game. I was doing some stuff out, and I found a hand printed game. This is an old zine that I did. Like, I'm like, cool, okay.
nice.
And so
What?
it's yes, basic options role play. The idea for it is that you take a stat, you take a skill, and then it's a card based game, not a dice game, and you pull a card, and you want that card to be as low as possible. How do I describe it? Oh, the race to first place. Like, if you're first place, you're
Nice.
the lowest. That's the lowest number there. So that's how I describe pulling the lowest card. Which that's an ace is number one. So if you've got an ace, you've pulled the best card, so to speak. You've
Mhm.
so which people associate aces with, like being good. So that's part of why I did that. Um, but no, like it's also like if the whole idea is that it's just down to a stat and a skill, and then sometimes like a trait, which traits are just like fun little things, sort of like um, feats from some other games or like character options in some other games. It's just like a slight little difference there. This one doesn't have anything like magic or anything like that, but those abilities would replace a skill, so to speak. But the whole idea is that it's not a universal system, but it's a very
Mhm.
basic system. Like, there's not a whole lot of skills, and every skill, like, if you're like, cool, I'm a scientist. Okay, well, are you a specialty? Oh, I'm a biologist. You can specialize any skill, but you don't have to, type thing. Um, is the thing for it. Sorry, I have an entire thing that just went. Why are you doing this to me?
Technology.
Recently, I've been having some weird things on my
Mhm.
computer. Right now, it says that my CPU usage is at 4.7%.
Mhm.
My RAM is at 25. Yet, when I move things, it stutters and acts like it's um, like my computer is working really hard. So if I look like I'm baffled for a second, I apologize. It's 100% because my computer is acting like it's taxed, and it's not.
Mm,
So um,
weird.
yeah, some of the technology I have is older. Like, it's an older computer. I just like slapped in more RAM. It's got 32 gigs of RAM, and like I slapped in a graphics card, and I was like, it's better. Like, that was with the shortage of computer stuff right now. That was my fix for making my computer better. Which some people say
Same.
Yeah, yeah. I'm still sitting over here like looking at like new video games that I want, and it's like two, three generations newer CPUs that you have to play them, and I'm like, um, but I I do apologize. I don't know how to pronounce your user handle. Ansis. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm
And
sorry.
space,
Um,
perhaps.
Now what seems to be the toughest part of Gmless experience in my limited experience, we kind of touched on that, and I meant to like note back, hey, you know, um, but yeah, no, I I wanted to wait to like do another touchback on this. I think the now what scenario also like is a mindset that we hit as indie designers for working with each other, for helping one another. I think we get to a point where like we look at the fact that we created something, that we did something, maybe we helped somebody, and now we're sitting here like, now what? Like, do we wait for somebody to do something nice to us? Do we keep paying it forward? Like, I've only got, 2 extra hours in my day after my day job. I see that a lot from folks. So I think the now what mindset is kind of a very prevalent thing. um,
Mm. Did
and
you've done some hype swaps, right? Have you seen that going around? That's been good
no,
fun. Oh, so hype swap was a hashtag started by myself and John East, whose Twitter is yes underscore John Jon. And yeah, they had released a new game and they were saying that they were struggling with like promo, right? Because it can be awkward to self promo sometimes for some folks. And so together we created hashtag hype swap, which basically you contact another indie designer and you swap games with each other. Up to you if you want to, if that's via download code or community copies or paying it, whatever works for the two of you, and then you write a thread. You using the hashtag HypeSwap. You hype each other's game up. You tag them, say a little bit about your experience, and have a link to the game on it, and leave a 5-star review. So that it is a bit, depending on how big the game is, of course, can be a bit time intensive. So maybe just like once a week, um, if you're up for it, is fine. I went a bit extreme. When HypeSwap was when it was first starting, and I did like 4 in a week. Um, so it's quite a lot, but it's been really great fun. And it's it's exactly that feedback that you want, right? Because you can get like sometimes you can get reviews or you can get like one sentence comments, but like in a Twitter thread in this particular context, right? People are often go quite in depth about what they think about your game, which is really really lovely to see and to hear. Um, yeah, just what people's actual experience is. So that's also a great way to find new games. If you're like, oh, I don't really know what to play, what's out there, you can search the hashtag hype swap, or one word, hashtag on Twitter, and see not just what the game is about, but people's experiences of it. Like, oh, maybe it sounds good, but like, how does it actually go out and play? A lot of people will like play through or read through and try the game. So yeah, that's another place to look if you're looking for places or ways to search for indie games. And yeah, it's been really really lovely. It started with me and John, but like so many other people have done it. People I haven't even contacted, people I don't even follow. So that's been really lovely to see that it's been continuing and it's still going to some extent.
I'm visibly upset over here because I'm scrolling down, and the amount of people that I see that I'm either mutuals with or that I follow that have participated in this, and this is the first time I'm hearing about Hype Swap. Like, this is the first time I'm seeing it. I am like,
Must be a time
how?
zone thing.
I That's the only thing I could think of is like maybe it's dropping, because a lot of them that I'm seeing they dropped like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. my time, or they dropped in the middle of my workday, which I can't always get on, and so I guess that's the thing, but it's just like how like I even scrolled through like one of the people that's on here. I Before I hired them to do some art for me, I scrolled through their thing and I'm like, how did I not see this on your
On your feed. Yeah,
and you, how do you've done it like eight.
I've done it a lot of
Well,
times.
you too. Woody RPG,
Yeah,
WUDE RPG. I am mutuals with them, and they done it a
they do a lot.
lot. Um, and I
They're
have I
doing they're doing a lot of Lumen games recently as well.
yeah, and Trinity not like they're in UK. Like I have two time zones on opposite sides of me doing this, and I didn't see it. Why? I hate Twitter's
Well, now you know it
algorithms.
exists,
I
so
know.
get on
So
that.
hey, folks, if you need to know where I am this weekend, besides my stream tomorrow, check me out on Hype Swap. I'm going to just dive in and deep into this. Um,
Yeah, nice. Feel free to like hit me up as well for a hype swap. I probably won't be like super quick about it, but yeah, I'll probably get to it. So that'll
I
be
know.
good.
I'm actually probably not going to do it right away this weekend because I told myself that I was going to finish. Because all I'm really doing is retyping that little tiny booklet into the system, and all I'm doing is I'm consolidating things because I had this like I wrote it like a war game, and so like I had to like restructure some things. But while we still have some time, I do want to be able to try and cover a little bit of our last game, our last topic, and that's games without combat.
Yeah,
And we don't mean not having combat. We mean games that are written without a combat system or without combat in mind.
yeah. So yeah, acknowledging that Dungeons and Dragons. That's what got me into tabletop games. That's the first tabletop RPG I ever saw. Um, you know, saw actual plays, listened to podcasts, started playing that and running it myself before finding Itch and the indie scene on Twitter and on Itch, which has been incredible. But yeah, D&D is it does sort of monopolize the industry at the moment, and is very combat focused. It's basically, yeah, it's a fighty game. You are adventurers, you kill the things, you take the loot, you get more strong. And a lot of people have like really heartfelt um, games as well with a lot of RP and character growth as well. But that's from the players, right? That's not in the rules anywhere. There are no rules supporting those sorts of encounters. So yeah, with D&D being so big, that can be for a lot of people their first influence to writing their own game, and that was true for me when I started writing my first couple of tabletop games. I have a big system that's kind of on the shelf for now, and that's fine. But it was very influenced by D&D, and it had combat because I thought, oh, well, it's a tabletop game. It has to have fighting of some kind, right? That must be how these things go, and it really doesn't have to be. And since then, most of our games now do not have combat at all and do not have fighting um, whatsoever, and it's great. Like there are many other dimensions of games. For me personally, I know like combat and violence can be really cathartic and um, useful for a lot of people, but what I personally enjoy about playing games and designing games is relationships and connection and collaborative storytelling, and none of those need combat. And I'm not particularly interested in fighting really when I play games. Um, so yeah, when I'm designing games, it's often about relationships and connecting with people. So a lot of my games focus on those themes. So there's really the mechanics and the story and the theme are all about connecting and relating to people. And combat just isn't even a thought. Um, which that's the way I like to design games and play games. But to each their own.
Um, I, I I haven't designed one yet, and I don't know. For me, coming to the table, a conflict system of some sort, even if it's just social conflict, which some people still see as being combat, sort of, not always, but I like the option of smashing something into pieces. I'm very much when I pick up a quick video game, I usually like strategy games where I can just throw a crap ton of enemies at each other. Though right now I have been playing one called Timberborn, which is all about beavers rebuilding society after a post-apocalypse. There's absolutely no combat except for the fact that you get a dry season and you are hoping that everybody survives. Um, but the one that really got me, um, the first one that I really played and read and enjoyed was from Margaret Catter Games. Or Margaret Catter Dev, sorry. I'm about to drop her itch down here, which she also goes by Little Red Alchemist, and Amani. She's been on some RPG Hour podcast. Imani, not Amani. There we go. Close enough for not really close enough. I hate these captions sometimes. Um, but Imani developed a really neat game. First off, one of them, it's dangerous to go alone. Take this. Um, Technically, it's all about just like what's in the bag and how you do it. There, you don't have to do any kind of sort of combat at all. It's all about like the game runner pulls out a bag, opens up the bag. They pull out a thing of lipstick and a first aid kit. That's what the characters have to use in their game. So it's all about like what you have on your person. But the one that really got me is called Hot Off the Press. It's all about being a high school newspaper club or newspaper team. And it's all about like getting the big story and building it. And it's such a great game. Um, and there's the link down in chat. Which I'll put all these for those of you that are watching it on YouTube and post and everything. These will all be down in the comments. But no, I mean like this Hot Off the Press is very much that. Like the combat isn't the idea. It's all about building the story. How do I? There is words that I'm trying to use to not directly go. So the idea is that you are trying to build the newspaper articles. Let me say it like that, because you're building a story together no matter what kind of game you're doing. But you're trying to build the newspaper articles, and it's kind of cool because like you are like so I like this line. What's floating in the pool, and since when have we had a pool? Like you can build ridiculous, amazing, fun stories. You could play this out like an anime where like the students are running around trying to gather stuff and like mysterious things are popping up in an almost supernatural way. You can play this as I was actually talking to somebody that's played this game and they ran it. There is a live action series. I want to say it's Korean, in which it's about girls at a private school and they're detectives. It's about basically a bunch of like Sherlock Holmes running around and solving things, and that's kind of how they played their version of Hot Off the Press. So I think these games are a lot of fun. Sometimes they can definitely like break you out of the idea that combat is the only thing. And I think like for me personally, this is I've only ever read 4 games like this. I've only played 2, and for me so far, like I haven't gotten my feet really like dipped in and in the deep end of the pool for non-combat based games yet. But
I
for
have lots of recommendations if you want them.
yes, but Hot Off the Press right now is mine. Like if you want a game that like me as a combat aficionado like there's 3 things that I really like. I like mechs, I like horror, and I like, mysteries. And this lets you build up everything that you want for a good mystery, for a good drama, for a good I mean, you could play this like a horror supernatural thing as well. Like there's just some things like the system is so open in the way that it's built. I'm trying to think if that other one that was that one that she wrote. She's got a lot of really cool games as well. There's a lot of really cool creators out there, but yes, check Yes Romeo. It's an icebreaker type TTRPG. It says that it lasts for 60 to 80 minutes. I read it. I haven't played it yet. And you use a deck of cards to kind of like break the ice and tell this like little story back and forth, kind of revealing a little bit about yourself and stuff like that. Um, but it's very much like a Taylor Swift song. Just saying, just like the name suggests.
Right. Just say yes.
I don't know if that was the intent by the name, but
Well, it's like a dating sim type game, right? So I
kind
mean,
of, sort of, yeah. It's also just like for breaking the ice with strangers, like getting to know somebody like for the first time, um, and playing a TTRPG at the same time. So
how are you with world building games? Have you dipped your toe in that arena?
no, and yes, I've written some games where, and I'm still expanding on them, where like before you get into the game, there's like a world building sheet, and you kind of build up everything. Some of them have been very short, um, but I was influenced by the team sheets from Blades in the Dark. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I got very much into a, well, if we're already building a team, why not build the world together? And then I found out that like there's a whole genre of this out there, and I'm like, cool, I need some suggestions. Um, and I'm still like, I haven't really gotten a whole lot for that, but I'm very much interested because I am um, a game that is on the back burner right now. It's a soft back burner because I'm trying to basically. Part of the way that the rules work is that it's an idea of a setting, not a setting, and you're supposed to build the world together. And the sheet that
Mm-hmm.
I have just doesn't feel adequate. And so I'm like, hold on, I need to do some game research before we get into this. Everybody put everything on pause. Like, I need to go do this right quick. And so I've been trying to find some. But
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones out there. One of my favorites is I'm sorry, did you say Street Magic by Kara Assertion? Really, really gorgeous game visually and in the design and the prose. It's really gorgeous on a number of levels. Gmless, the whole game is world building. You're building this town together, and it's really strong structure, really strong. Has phases, like basically phases of play and turn taking. Um, and yeah, it's gorgeous. It's based off. So that's one. I'm sorry, did you say Street Magic? It's based off or influenced by Microscope by
mm-hmm.
Ben Robbins. Yeah, which is you kind of building. It's world building in like zoomed way out. You're building eons of a civilization, right? Whereas Street Magic is a single town. There's also The Quiet Year by Avery Alder, which you look over 1 year of a community that there was like a war, and they have 1 year. The players know that they have 1 year before the next conflict comes. The characters don't necessarily know that. And you look at how they sort of rebuild and survive in that 1 year. And inspired by that is Cozy Town by Jamie of Sword Queen Games. Cozy Town is itch funding. Check it out, please. Um, and Cozy Town is about building a town over a 1 year, but it's called Cozy Town because it's just like the softest, coziest thing, and the whole pardon me, the whole aim of the game is to make your fellow players go aww with all the cuteness that you're injecting into the game. That's a really sweet game that I've played multiple times. That's just 4 world building games for you to see if any of those take your fancy. I may have an extremely unruly large folder of tabletop games on my laptop that is just very huge. I also like backed uh, the Palestinian aid bundle and the racial equality bundle on itch. So there's a whole bunch more games in there. So I've just got. If anyone ever needs recommendations for any tabletop games ever, you can probably ask me. It's maybe a bit much, but yes, and like I said, the
Oh,
variety of themes just there is a lot. So Quiet Year is kind of very sort of survival, quite intense. Um, you know, play characters can die and like you lose things and it can be tough. And then Cozy Town is just like soft and sweet, and so there's all different like themes within the genre of world building. There's like sci-fi, fantasy, sort of all kinds of different. There's a lot. There's really a lot. um, so I hope that yes, you find something that you enjoy just playing full stop that perhaps can also, help you with your own design there.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to check out Cozy Town only because I'm mutuals with somebody that works on that. No offense to all the others. I'm sure your games are great, but as soon as I see that a mutual has like worked or participated in a game, I always try and support those people because back to indie developers and paying it forward. I love building up new people, but I also like going back and saying, "Hey, you helped me out in the beginning or early on," because I have buttons and I have stickers and I have a bag with custom pencils sitting in my house from podcasts and streams that are no longer here. And like their websites are gone. Um, like everything about them is gone. And so like, I don't know what happened to them. I didn't stay in touch with these people and I'm trying to be a better steward of the indie community on my side of things as well and try and keep up with more people. I could be bad about that because of my day job. I can work anywhere from 10 to 14 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week. Um, so, yeah. Um, but I think that can definitely help some of us out by paying it forward, by building each other up, by talking to each other. Join discords, join Guilded, um, get into people's places. And as I'm saying it again, I'm going to go ahead and drop that down below. We have dropped Discord. RPGHour Studios has left and is leaving Discord. August 1st is the day when I shut down the Discord. I will probably keep it privately up to grab some of the information. I'm slowly getting some of the information over to the new server. We've gone to Guilded. If you haven't checked out Guilded yet, Guilded is a great way of building a community. There's schedulers, there's calendars built in. You can do forums rather than just a single thing of just like people just adding text on top of each other, like what Discord does. You can actually drop media folders where people can drop GIFs and images. You can actually build RPGs together by a form file called a doc where people can drop text in and you can go in there and co-work together and co-build games together or co-write all kinds of stuff together. You can use this for a lot of stuff. It was originally built for the video game communities, but there's a lot of functionality that really does overlap for the TTRPG scene. So, I mean, folks, if you're not already in a Guilded, find a Guilded to check it out, see if it's something that you want. There's the link in ours. Ours is gilded.gg / RPGHour Studios. Click the apply button at top because we do have a little bit of a, hey, here's the rules, read these right quick before you just jump in. Our calendar is public, so you can always see like what's coming up next if I remember to actually update it. I'm trying to think. Why don't you go ahead and outro yourself right quick? Only because Google is ready to toss us out.
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you for having me on. Thank you for telling me about Gilded because I've not heard about it till now, so that's something to check out. But yes, I have been and will continue to be Logan, he, him pronouns. You can find me on Twitter at ink_and_stories. I'm a tabletop game designer. You can hire me to write on your games. I'm also a design consultant. Do just lots of tabletop game things. I play them, run them, make them all the time. It's great fun. Probably going to play some today. It's going to be amazing. And I'm definitely playing some tomorrow. And yeah, you can find my games at breathingstories.itch.io. Again, kind of focusing on relationships, connecting, being soft. And yeah, I'll see you around the internets. That's me.
I have a lot of links to drop. I will probably add a lot more. So if you are watching this on YouTube, check down below, subscribe. There's a lot of links down below for a lot of fun things. This has been Indie RPG Hour, which is part of RPGHour Studios. We have a lot of things right now until the end of July, maybe a little bit into August. We have Mekton Heist, which is a Mekton Zeta actual play. We play for 3 hours on Saturdays, which is 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central. Of course, you can also check it out here. We're also taking the audio, stripping it out, and tossing it onto your favorite podcatcher as well. It's a 3-hour listen, but you can also pause and come back to it. And then on the first and third Wednesdays, starting next Wednesday, we do have our Routes Unknown, which is coming back for a second season, and that's going to play until the end of October. We'll be out for November and December. I'll just replay some of the episodes during November and December as reruns. And then, of course, we're always looking to add more shows. So if you join our Gilded community, get kind of involved in some things, and you're interested in like starting a show, we could definitely discuss it. Go over like what our expectations are of you as somebody running a game, of you as a player at the table. And we are always looking for more folks to also, come in and do all kinds of things. We have a council that we are forming. It is a group of folks who are helping to decide the future of what things are going to be, because I need people to tell me to sit down, shut up, and stop jumping in. I wasn't originally going to be running something on Saturdays. I've got too many things on my plate as is. I'm running Mekton Heist because the person who was originally going to run that had to step down for personal reasons. And I decided I'm just going to run another game. So I now have people that are there to tell me to sit down, shut up, and stop doing this to yourself, because I can't do that for myself. But they're also there to help get games started, help get things going, and to make sure that everything looks great and fun. And we also have some more things that are coming out. We have a game show that is in pre-production. We are going to record episodes, polish them up, and then we're going to put out a recorded episode here on Twitch. So do keep an eye out for those. I will not be the host. As I have been saying for, what has it been, 2 years now? Two plus years? I do not want to be in everything that RPGHour Studios does. I don't want to be in every single show. I don't want to run everything. I really, really don't. However, I am very much a the show must go on person, and that's why I'm getting burnt out on some things, because I will literally shove myself into anything if somebody drops out. I will take the seat, and I need to stop doing this. Don't let me do this if you see me doing this, folks. Please tell me that I don't need to do this. I need somebody to say that on occasion. My partner won't. She will let me go jump into things. I don't think she's in chat anymore, so I can say things like this and she can't get onto me. I feel like I am forgetting something. At RPG,
where can we follow you? Yeah, there we go.
At RPGHour is the main account. I am no longer using that as a personal account. At IndieRPGHour, that is my personal account. I'm non-binary, and my favorite thing in the world is mechs, so that's where the name came from. Because RPGHour is not just me, is not just my partner, and to further drive that in, I am no longer developing the tabletop role-playing games that we are developing under the RPGHour name. Those are all under Dead Coast Games. So if you want to find our games, deadcoastgames.itch.io, or you can find us at Dead Coast Games on Twitter. We're slowly building that Twitter up, but that is really when we're going to be doing play tests. We're going to be doing, talking about our tabletop role-playing games. You'll find that on NB Mecha Pilot or Dead Coast Games. RPGHour, I'm still going to be retweeting some of that stuff, but it's no longer going to be a primary tweet from RPGHour because that didn't go the direction that I was hoping. I was hoping more people would come on and we'd develop things together, but instead, I'm going to take that aside and just focus on what me and my partner have been trying to, like games that we've been trying to design and build. And RPGHour Studios is going to become a thing where we are not the only people on every show, and that, it's not just a bunch of the same folks over and over again. Because that wasn't the point of what I was trying to do with this. And if you like what we're doing, there is a tip jar down below, because I keep forgetting to talk about that too. Tip jar down below. Money helps us keep going, and money is split. So if you say that, you donated because of this episode here to the tip jar down below, which is only on Twitch, not on YouTube, I will drop some kind of a link on YouTube at some point. I keep forgetting. But if you say that this is the episode, um, Ink and Stories gets a little bit of the money. Anytime that we have people on, that money gets split between people. That money does not just go into my pocket. Um, a certain amount gets set aside for taxes because I pay taxes on the money that comes through. Um, and then money is divvied up from there. Anything that's left over from taxes goes into a general fund to pay for artwork and things for the shows. It's not a personal thing for me. So the if you put money in and say, "Hey, it was the episode with at Inked and Stories," um, I'm gonna send him something and say, "Give me a PayPal thing or something," and drop some money over there. So
Cool.
just say when you're dropping money, say what it's for. If you say general fund, then it goes into the general fund to help buy artwork for all the different shows and everything. I think that is everything. I feel like I'm forgetting something because I'm always forgetting something, even though I have a list. And I did that. I did that. I did that. Oh, Our Adventures is a podcast that Mrs. sort of heads up. It is a RPG Hour as a podcast is no longer going to be the same thing. It is no longer a one-shot show. It is Indie RPG Hour gets stripped out. That audio goes there. We release those episodes that way. I am behind on editing because I am taking too much on my plate. But these episodes will eventually go there. Um, but if you're interested in one-shot shows, Our Adventures, Hour Adventures, it is a rotating game runner. Basically, everyone at the table can take a chance and run a game. And we try and get game devs on as well to run the games. The main focus of the cast members is that they are not like so many shows out there. We focus on getting queer folks, and priority goes towards queer folks and POC folks. So if you're a POC queer or POC queer, and you're looking for a show that does one shots, that's Our Adventures. Come on over. We are always looking for new people to come and play games with us. And you can find out more about that in the Gilded down below. I think that is finally everything. So until the dice roll again.